Sir John Alexander Macdonald was an instrumental figure in Canadian history who helped found the country we all know and love. When he died in office in 1891, his death shocked the nation. Among the shocked were future prime ministers. Here's how every future prime minister who was alive reacted to the death of Sir John A. Macdonald. Alexander Mackenzie was Sir John A. Macdonald's temporary successor in the mid 1870s, following Macdonald's resignation due to the Pacific Railway scandal. By 1891, when Sir John A. Macdonald died, Mackenzie was hardly able to move, speak, or do much of anything, and would die the next year. However, despite being political opponents, Mackenzie recognized Macdonald's contributions to Canada and acknowledged him as an important figure in the creation of Canada. Sir John Abbott was Macdonald's successor as leader of the Conservative Party and in turn the Prime Minister of Canada. While in the chamber, Abbott recognized Macdonald as an important figure to Canada and, of course, his own partisan interests, as Macdonald was Conservative Prime Minister for 19 years. When Macdonald died, Abbott recognized the sorrow and sense of responsibility. Having initially supported Sir John Thomson as Macdonald's successor as Prime Minister, he accepted the role and served as Prime Minister until 1892 when he resigned, 1 year before his own death. The then Minister of Justice, Sir John Thomson, was deeply affected by the loss of Macdonald. He considered Macdonald the father of his country and acknowledged that he and a lot of other members of the Conservative Party had lost their hearts with him. He was initially tipped to succeed Macdonald, but his Catholic faith gave the leadership to Abbott. When Abbott resigned, Thomson succeeded him. Interesting to note, Thomson was also the last minister to see Prime Minister Macdonald alive before his stroke. Sir Mackenzie Bowell was an instrumental figure in the two Macdonald ministries. Bowell deeply cared about the Liberal Conservative Party and its leader for 24 years. Bowell recognized the importance of Macdonald and his contributions to Canada. Upon his death, Bowell felt a profound sense of loss as a friend and for the country. He also recognized, however, that his own accession to the prime ministership wouldn't have been possible without his death. Sir Charles Tupper was an instrumental figure in Canadian history and is the only other prime minister widely considered to be a founding father. He was the premier of Nova Scotia during Confederation, the only province who was significantly against Confederation. Tupper's reaction to Macdonald's death was one of profound and deep sadness. Tupper deeply mourned the loss of a friend and a leader. He knew more than any of his predecessors Macdonald's legacy and the profound impact it'd have on the country and on the Conservative Party. While Sir John A. Macdonald and Sir Wilfrid Laurier didn't go far back, nor see eye to eye on many issues, with Laurier being a staunch liberal, it wasn't the United States, so the two had a mutual respect and treated each other with baseline human dignity. Laurier recognized Macdonald's important legacy to the country. 2 days after Macdonald's death on the 6th of June, Speaker Joseph Aldic Guimont asked members to give a speech to remember him. He's a tiny expert of Laurier's. Mr. Speaker, I fully recognize the emotion which chokes the honorable gentleman. His silence, under the circumstances, is far more eloquent than any human language can be. I fully appreciate the intensity of the grief which fills the souls of all those who were the friends and followers of Sir John Macdonald. At the loss of the great leader whose whole life had been so closely identified with their party, a party upon which he has thrown such brilliancy and lustre. We, on this side of the House, who were his opponents, who did not believe in his policy nor in his methods of government, we take our full share of their grief. For the loss which they deplore today is far and away beyond above the ordinary compass of party range. It is in every respect a great national loss, for he who is no more was, in many respects, Canada's most illustrious son, in every sense, Canada's foremost citizen and statesman, at the period of life to which Sir John Macdonald had arrived. Death, whenever it comes, cannot be said to come unexpected. some few months ago during the turmoil of the late election, when the country was made aware that on a certain day the physical strength of the veteran premier had not been equal to his courage, and that his intense labor for the time being had prostrated his singularly weary frame. Everybody, with the exception, perhaps, the angel of death, had touched him with his wing. Sir Robert Borden was the first Conservative Prime Minister elected after Macdonald. Borden respected Macdonald deeply as a person while he was alive, and of course once he died. Borden recognized the deep sorrow, respect, and recognition of Macdonald's legacy as an important figure in Canadian politics. Following four weak Conservative leaders, he recognized the void that Macdonald's death created and recognized somebody needed to fill his shoes who wouldn't stay there for a year or two before being forced out. Borden was Prime Minister during the 50th anniversary of Confederation in 1917 and, of course, praised Macdonald. At only 17 years of age, Arthur Meehan doesn't have any readily available records about how Meehan would have reacted to Macdonald's death. However, as Meehan grew up and became a prominent conservative himself, it's relatively safe to say that he held Macdonald in high regard. On the 50th anniversary of his death in 1941, Meehan gave a speech about Macdonald and is one of the only surviving voice recordings of the ninth Prime Minister.
The footsteps of time move fast. And how short is the term of life? Very brief it is to those who are eager to toil and to achieve. The thought now, though, deepest in every mind must be, how short, how narrowly bounded is human vision. Here in this place, hallowed by every Canadian, we meet 50 years after his death to do honor to the man who more than any other founded our country, and we meet under the shadow of the blackest clouds that ever overcast the world. We meet amid the fires, the thunders of war, distant perhaps in space, but not in truth, threatening all we possess and all we are. Sir Wilfrid Laurier ascribed to Macdonald as his highest attribute a far-reaching vision beyond the events of his time.
William Lyon Mackenzie King was, in turn, also 17 years old at the time of Sir John A Macdonald's death. There's absolutely no writing that King wrote, no speeches that King spoke, or any records that King recorded that shows how King would have reacted to Macdonald's death. King's public life began in the late 1890s, while Macdonald died in 1891. However, it's fair to say that King must have held at least a somewhat positive view of Macdonald because most of King's premiership was shaped by Macdonald. I have not been prosperous in my search to find a connection between R.B. Bennett and Sir John A. Macdonald. It just simply seems that Bennett tried to move the Conservative Party forward past Macdonald, as Bennett had not mentioned Macdonald in not one speech or writing in his entire life. However, as a Conservative, it's safe to say he held a positive view of Macdonald. The only connection I could find between Bennett and Macdonald was in 1869 the Bennetts owned a shipyard in Hopewell Cave, New Brunswick, and one of the largest ships ever launched was the Sir John A. Macdonald. Louis Saint Laurent was just a 9-year-old kid when Macdonald passed away. It shouldn't come as much of a shock when I say there are absolutely zero records about how Saint Laurent reacted to Macdonald's death, because he likely just didn't care. His earliest political memory was in 1896, 5 years after Sir John died. And there you have it. Every single Canadian Prime Minister's reaction that was alive at that time's reaction to the first ever Canadian Prime Minister's death. A very sad moment that shaped the future of Canadian politics.